Hello. Hopefully everything is working. This is interesting. So I just spent the past like 25 minutes trying to make sure that trying to go live and it was not working on the software that I normally use. So I decided to do it a different way. And it turns out that YouTube has actually updated a feature. So I'm kind of excited, but I was like in like the perfect zone to make a video. And then after spending 25 minutes trying to make this happen, not only will I have less time to be live with you, but I'm just kind of grumpy after that. Don't worry. I still have things to share. I'm going to talk for as much as I can. I just need to make sure that the audio is working properly. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I feel like I've just been saying this out loud so much. Is working properly. I don't know if I've mentioned this. I feel like I've just been saying this out loud so much, but I'm on the verge of getting a new computer sometime in the next few weeks, sometime this month, if all things go as planned. And I just can't wait because this computer, we're so used to things being fast and we have all this advanced technology. And so when things don't work the way that we expect them to or want them to, or they're just slow or whatever, it's so funny how much that can be irritating, but we also have to remember to be grateful for the fact that we have that technology. I just find I'm somebody that's a bit impatient. That's something that I continuously have to work on. And I also just love technology, except when it doesn't work the way I want it to. The good news is I've actually been really passionate about technology, like computers and electronics and all that since I was really little. Both my grandfathers were really into tech. One of them was an inventor. The other one, just like both of them actually in their basement, my grandfathers had what was the term? Like rooms where they made things. And so both of them would like fix things on their own and make things. And like one of my grandfathers was really into wood crafting and they were just very interested by all things tech. And so was my dad. And so I just grew up with that interest, and it was one of the skills I'm most grateful for because I remember many years ago, before things like the iPhone came around, this feels like I'm like an old lady telling this story, but truly before the iPhone came around, it just feels like technology was so different. And I feel like when the iPhone came around and like smartphones became this thing where almost everybody could have access to the internet and be able to use phones in a whole new way and have the internet in our pocket. Like BlackBerries were around, but I feel like not a ton of people had them. I never had a BlackBerry. And I remember them being kind of confusing and frustrating. The iPhone for me as a big Apple fan, at least, like it just like was this mind-blowing experience that connected us in such a different way and in an instantaneous way. And because of the iPhone, all these other brands now have smartphones. So even if you're not an Apple fan like I am, you probably have a smartphone. You might be watching this on your smartphone. In fact, I have to look at my statistics and analytics, but for most people, I think like 50% of views are coming on mobile devices. And in fact, I actually watch more YouTube on my iPhone than I do my computer right now. So anyways, I'm just so fascinated by all that. And my other point was, I feel like it was rare for women to be really passionate in tech. I went to film school and I was one of the only girls in my classes. And just over the years, it was just a great percentage of men. And so when I would do like tech classes around cameras and lighting and all that stuff, like there just weren't as many girls in that field. And I think part of it is that women didn't realize that they could do things like that. Like there's this weird bias, I forget what the percentages are, but there's such a smaller percentage of women in the film industry. But I feel like any type of tech industry, and I just feel like it's a cultural thing, but it's shifting so much. So now another great example is I've been editing video since, what year did I start doing that? It's been a long time because I've been making videos since I was really little. And I really wanted to learn how to edit. And so I learned to edit. Again, I'm dating myself a lot here, but I use something called deck to deck. So before DVDs started to be really build up in popularity, I would use VHS tapes, and you would you would have all your footage on one VHS tape, and then you would use a program on these, not even a computer, like these monitors, and you had to buy the separate drive, and it was so confusing and frustrating. You had to learn how to take footage from one VHS tape and edit it in the correct way on another. And it was just very complicated. Again, even for me, where I just have been using computers and tech almost my entire life, which again was rarer for people of my date of birth. I just got into it super young, and I was determined to learn all this tech. And then finally, things like Final Cut Pro came out, which is for the Mac, and that's the advanced editing software. And that's also changed a lot over the years. When I first learned Final Cut Pro, which I think was the very first version, it was super expensive. It was not something that most people had. It was at least $2,000. And for years it was like that. And now I think it's $200 or something like that, right? So it's just so fascinating. My big point here is that tech keeps evolving. It becomes more and more accessible. More people are learning all of this technology. And I'm just always fascinated by it. So I didn't really mean to talk about that, but that's a little story about my life, a little view into that. I had a few things I wanted to share. I'm about to leave for the East Coast. I'll be on the East Coast for a whole month, and a lot of my trip is going to be up in the air, sort of. So I leave next Tuesday, September 11th, and my trip really starts the following day. So I get in the early evening on Tuesday, and then next Wednesday, early afternoon, I'm leaving for a 1-week road trip with my friend Jason. And we'll be filming on Instagram, but we're also doing a series, which just sharing that with you makes me so excited. Oh, before that, because I know some of you don't watch the entire videos, especially when these are long, I do want to say in the link below, let me pause. It's like a little commercial break. Down below in the description field, there's a link to 2 things that are pretty time sensitive. One of them is a giveaway. So if you didn't see me announce this in my newsletter or on my main Eco Vegan Gal channel, make sure that you check out the giveaway if you like winning free things. I'm giving away over $100 worth of organic vegan products like protein shakes and probiotics and other supplements that are awesome from this great company that I've been using. And they're super generous, giving this high-end package to somebody. So you can sign up. All you have to do is sign up for my newsletter and you're entered in the giveaway. And then there's some bonus things that you can do. So the link is down there. It's whitneylortzen.com/giveaway. And then there's also a link. I hope I put the right one in there. It's a bit.ly link for the care packages that I've been offering. And they've been going really fast because I offered a discount code in my newsletter this weekend. So if you had signed up for that, you would get the discount code. And if you're already signed up, check your inbox because you can get $5 off. And that's another incentive to sign up for the newsletter because I do giveaways and discounts and all sorts of things like that. So the care packages are going really fast. So regardless if you get the discount code, the care packages are in very short supply, and I don't know exactly when I'm going to run out. But the all other time sensitive element of the care packages is that I am leaving town, so I won't be able to ship them to you after Monday. So if you order now or you order before Monday, September 10th, I can ship them out to you before I leave town. And if you order afterwards, I don't know when I'll get them to you. and I don't know if anyone will be left. So I just want to make sure you knew about those. So those are linked down below. If you have any trouble, just message me, email me, and I will help set you all up. When you get the care packages, you also get a 3-month membership to Eco Vegan Pal, which I'm putting a lot of work into right now. And so that'll be evolving a bunch this year. And I'd love to have you in there. So you get a care packages from me. You get a 3-month membership. The membership also includes my ebooks. So it's a really good value for what it is. And it's another way that you can support me and feel more connected to me and all that stuff. Okay. So what was I saying? Oh, just I guess about my trip. I'm working on this video series and I'm so excited because, as you probably know, if you've been watching my videos, I have been experimenting with a keto diet, a low-carb, plant-based diet. And I wanted to continue experimenting with it during this trip. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this diet. I see it as pretty temporary. And also just an experiment. I've learned so much. I'm so glad that I tried it out because I just feel like there are so many benefits. So it's just kind of like evolving in a direction that I didn't fully plan. But I partner with my friend Jason, who I'm traveling with for 2 weeks, and we all partnered with like 15 brands or something like that to share their products in our videos. And so I use that not only to have products to experience, like I'm trying new things, like there's all these amazing vegan keto products out there, which I'm just excited to talk about because I think people think that keto is super limited or, you know, they don't know how to do it. So I'm just going to share my experiences. Jason's going to try out keto, a light version of it and give his opinion. He's pretty skeptical of it too, but open. And also the advantage of us partnering with these brands is it's a great source of accountability, meaning that had we not partnered with these brands, I don't know if we would have done this video series. So it's going to be a vlog series. We did this a few years ago on our East Coast trip, and it was really fun. I have been wanting to get back into vlogging, so I'm just super excited about that. And I don't know what channel it's going to go on. It's either going to go on the main Eco Vegan Gal channel, the What a Vegan Eats channel, or Facebook. And that's just up in the air. The series will probably come out in October. And I'll be editing it, hopefully my new computer if everything goes as planned. So I'm so excited. I hope that like having the new computer is going to encourage me to make more videos, to start editing. But I've also partnered with a number of brands. Beyond that series, there's another big brand. And I teased you about some announcement and like something I wanted to share with you weeks ago. And I partnered with a brand. So now I'm going to wait so that I can make some content and then edit it properly to do like the full announcement video. I feel like if you've been following along and waiting for that announcement, maybe it's going to seem like what's the big deal. But as I've mentioned before, it's just an exciting thing that's come into my life. It won't affect you very much, I don't think. And the only thing that's going to change is I'll probably be including this topic in some of my videos moving forward. It was funny the other night, I was like lying in bed, probably falling asleep or something. And I thought, what if you guys think that I'm going to announce that I'm pregnant or something? And like, I started to think about how I was, teasing it, like talking about this exciting thing. And, I had this like moment of like, oh my gosh, what if they think that's what I'm going to say because I've been so mysterious about it. I'm not pregnant. It's not something like that. It's just like something that I worked really hard for and was really excited about. And it finally happened. And it's really important to me personally. So you'll finally see that sometime in October as well. I'll have a lot of content then. And October 20th actually marks my 10-year anniversary with Eco Vegan Gal. So I feel like there's just so much I want to do around that. Earlier this year, I really wanted to plan a road trip, and that got delayed a bit. And now I'm just going to see what's going to happen with that. I feel like I don't fully know how to make that road trip happen. And there's a lot of like elements of it that I wanted to incorporate, but the goal of it was to celebrate 10 years with you in person. So if you're in the US or Canada, there's a very good chance that I might come to a city near you and do some meetups and various things. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I think right now I'm so focused on this trip coming up. I'm also working on, this project with Jason. We have our brand Wellevator, and we're releasing a podcast in October. So October is just a really big month for me. There's a lot happening. And it's also really challenging to leave town for a month, like I've got my suitcase back there. I'm just starting to pack, and it's just kind of like wrapping my head around all of the things that needs to be done. Tonight, I'm going to a movie, and tomorrow I have like so much going on. And then Monday is my last full day here. I leave super early on Tuesday morning. And so it's like just thinking about it and talking about it right now is a little overwhelming. But you know what? We got to let it flow and trust that everything will work out. Oh, Ted says the camera, you can only see my bookshelf. Is that true for everybody? Have I been talking this whole time and all you can see is my bookshelf? Because on my end, I can see everything. Oh my gosh. If I've been talking for 16 minutes and you can't see anything but my bookshelf, that is just really funny. Because on my end, you can see me and the whole background. Can anybody else weigh in on this? Can you see me and hear me okay? Oh, that would explain so much. Right now it's fine. Okay. Well, maybe Ted, is that just your device that you're on? Okay, good. Derek says he can see me as well. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. But I was super white. Here's the thing, you guys, is it's like, I don't know how much, if you don't make videos yourself, you probably don't realize how hard it is to make content. And this is a super simple setup. But let me just explain. Actually, somebody recently asked me for like some info about my setup. So one of these days I will do that. But like, I just fixed a curtain. So I like to film at my desk because this is where all my computer, I have 2 computers. And it's like, sometimes I just want to sit down and make a video. I don't care if I look white. I don't care if the background's messy. I don't care if I have makeup on, or like, I just want to express myself and connect with you. And it just feels like there's so many technical things involved. Like if you tuned in later and you didn't see the beginning of my video, like I have been making videos for probably 25 years. And I went to film school. Like I have so much knowledge and experiences. I worked for Apple for 6 years. Like I'm one of the most tech savvy people I know, like, and not to be boastful. It's just literally most people that I meet are like, oh, you know so much more than I do about tech. Like, and even with all this knowledge and all this experience, I still can't make a perfect video every single time, right? Like that's how complicated tech is. I think this is why people get very frustrated with it. I'm always willing to tweak it, but even with the exact same setup, things can go wrong. So today my computer was really slow. So it took me 25 minutes to start recording this, and the software wasn't working. So I had to switch to a different software, and the window, shade is letting in too much light. Right. And then, there's just like so much to think about. And I get very frustrated by that. Now, a little inside look for anybody who's curious about why I get frustrated, but also if you can relate to this, I think that comes back around to, like, I've actually been thinking a lot about this, and I want to talk about it because I feel like a lot of us are struggling with this challenge of not wanting to make mistakes. You've probably heard me talk about my mom before. If you haven't, I love my mom. I know my mom loves me. It's just, there's a lot of challenging elements to her. And I think that my mother has shamed me for most of my life. I really feel like that's the only, like currently, that's what explains some of my issues, right? And I was talking to a friend of mine today about parenting today and last night. So last night I was talking to a friend of mine who's recently married and thinking about having kids. And then today I was talking to a friend who is separated from her partner that she had a child with. And, just a lot of conversations around parenthood. And both conversations revolved around how no matter what we do as parents, we could screw up our kids. I don't have kids yet, but I think about this stuff a lot because I would like to have kids. I don't know if I will, but I may. And I think that everybody has some sort of challenge that they're dealing with. And a lot of that is just because of things that have happened in their early development years. That could be things that a parent did unconsciously. I think most of the time it is. That could be a mistake that a parent made and regretted, but we're such sensitive beings that like a mistake can scar us for life, right? I think most parents like unknowingly do things that have a ripple effect for their kids. So the thing is for my mom is I can witness her, I can love her and have compassion for her, but I can also see her flaws. And it's funny because like with my dad, I see his flaws, but I feel like they didn't affect me as much as my mom's. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that I'm so sensitive to criticism. And I've been reflecting about that a lot. And I think it's because I spent so much of my life being criticized by my mother and a little bit by my dad. And then as I grew older, my sister grew older. My sister's also really critical of me. And here I am about to go back to Massachusetts or just to go back to the East Coast for a month and spend a lot of time with my family. And it's exciting and also scary because most times that I visit my family, I experience some really strong criticism from them. I was talking about this with my friend last night too, and she was like, yeah, sometimes you can just say, forget what they say, forget this criticism, let it roll off their back. And I said to her, I would love to do that, but I haven't learned how to do it yet. I internalize criticism so much. So even when someone says, your face is really white, there's a part of me that immediately internalizes that and goes, oh, I screwed up. I did something wrong. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to succeed. I'm always going to screw something up. These are the things that come up in my head a lot. And I think those are just old thought patterns that I developed as a kid. When I look back over video footage of me as a little kid, I see a very scared, shy, unsure little girl. I have footage from when I was probably like 3 years old and up. And there's just a lot of moments I can see this expression on my face of insecurity, I guess. And like probably fear, not like, it's just that fear I think of being unsure, right? And I think a lot of that is because I was raised with such a critical mother and a mother that based a lot of her parenting and shaming me. So I think I spent so much of my life afraid to hear somebody telling me that I was doing something wrong. And so that's like the underlying thread throughout my life is I'm always afraid of screwing up. So even when somebody says, oh, the light, I couldn't see your face in the video, or the light made you too bright. What happens to me and the way that I process this is I messed something up. I should have known better. That's a huge thing. The other day, I was experiencing a lot of this. On Thursday, it was a really challenging day for me. I'd gotten up really early to get some things done. I didn't get enough sleep. I was just exhausted. I felt stressed. I felt time crunch. It was just like this like tension in me that morning. And something happened. Oh, I was doing a Facebook video and someone came on to my Facebook video and told me that they were disappointed in me because they heard that I was doing the keto diet. I don't know if they realize I don't know if they assumed that I'm no longer vegan, but of course I'm still vegan. But they basically were shaming me publicly on Facebook for choosing to change my diet temporarily. And it was like immediately triggered. And in my head, I think, oh, great. This person is shaming me. This person's telling me they disagree with me. This person's telling me that I'm doing something wrong. This person's, on and on, right? And so it hit me. It's a trigger for me because it reminds me of growing up and experiencing that. I felt like I was walking on eggshells my whole childhood. And I actually always feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And it's a really challenging mental thing to repair when that's been going on your whole life. And then later that day, a couple hours after that Facebook comment, which for most people, they can just let that roll off their back. But when somebody says something that triggers you, it's not always that easy. It's not as simple as, oh, forget it, that person, blah, 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 like whatever. I believe, I can only speak for myself here, but when I grew up with a mother that was constantly telling me I was doing something wrong, it hurt a lot, and I became protective. And it's like, I also have a lot of sensitivity, I don't know if the sensitivity has always been there, or it's like, if somebody keeps hitting you in the same spot over and over again, you're going to get bruised and it's going to hurt. And then even the gentlest touch on that bruise hurts, versus normally, if no one's hitting you, you're probably pretty strong there, and people can touch you and it's not that big of a deal. But when something's been poked at over and over and over again, you're more sensitive to it physically. And that's the best way for me to explain my sensitivities around criticism. Even the smallest type of criticism evokes something in me. And it's an ongoing practice to respond to it differently. So on Thursday, in addition, that Facebook comment was just, I felt extra sensitive because I was tired and stressed, right? So also when you think about it, if someone's punching you and then or let's say you have a wound and someone's punching you, it's going to hurt even more because it's like the layers are being peeled back and you're more vulnerable. So I was more vulnerable on Thursday because of an accumulation effect, right? And then I almost hit a breaking point. A long story short, because I don't really want to relive this, but I was in a parking lot, and again, it's not worth getting into the details, but somebody yelled at me because they didn't like the way that my car was parked. They thought that I was like blocking the street or something, but it was like full on projection. I mean, these people were literally blocking the street, and then they blamed it on me because they said like I wasn't pulled into the parking lot enough and whatever. It was so stupid, but they literally yelled at me. These two people yelled at me, and it was like, I felt like I was just bombarded with rage. And I felt so shocked by it because I was already feeling sensitive. I was already feeling criticized that day. And then to have these people basically yelling at me for something I didn't intentionally mean to upset them. My decision to how I parked in the parking lot had nothing to do with them. And I didn't even realize they were affected by it. Of course, I would have moved if I had known, but they basically made all of these assumptions about my behavior and wanted to shame me for it, right? And I think shame is just such a big thing that goes on in our culture. So I'm sensitive to criticism, and I'm really sensitive to shame. Like I think honestly, shame is really where I'm sensitive to. So when I feel like someone's shaming me and I'm not prepared for it, it's like especially hurtful. Because sometimes you can anticipate it, but when I'm not anticipating it, it's like, and it's just that trigger. It's not that person's fault, really. Like you can't be upset with somebody for the way that they approach you, because that's their own stuff. And they may not realize how shame affects you. But for me, sometimes people are not even intending to shame me, but I have this interpretation of shame because shame just like, if you're growing up with it and your formative years of your life are filled with shame, you start to experience shame everywhere. I think the framework of my life was based in a lot of shame. I had a lot of body shame growing up. And so I catch myself thinking things about other people and realizing that that's not the reality. It's my filter of shame, right? And that it just like I have to be super conscious about it all the time. And I have to talk myself through it. So for the whole reason I was pointing this out is when someone says, oh, your face looks super white, I have to step back and go, maybe they're just trying to be helpful. They're not telling me I screwed up. They're not telling me I'm a bad person. They're probably just trying to let me know so that I can change something, right? And a lot of times I do want to change it, but I think on another level, the reason I actually want to change all the time, I feel more comfortable with change. And the sadder like realization that I've had lately is that I feel comfortable in change because I always, like when I said I was walking on eggshells, I never felt good enough for my mother. And I still don't. I feel like there was always something wrong with me. Still to this day, I'm never good enough for my mom. I know she loves me. I know that. There's no question. All your comments they're back. I will address your comments, but I want to finish my thoughts on this is it's just my mother is just not easily pleased for her own reasons, whatever. And it's so frustrating because my mom is not the type of person, as far as I know, that will help me understand why she's like that. I just have to accept my mother as she is and try not to get in this. I have to now, as an adult, recognizing all this stuff. My job now is to like not internalize everything as shame and criticism and realize that I am good enough and I don't have to please somebody and I don't have to walk on eggshells because that's really up to that person. Like if somebody's going to shame me, they have their own reasons for shaming me. If they're going to criticize me, that doesn't mean that I've done something wrong. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or a wrong person. They just might have that perspective. Like that person on Facebook on Thursday, it's like, okay, so they don't agree with my choices to try the keto diet. Like the other thing I realized, I think this is in yoga yesterday, is I've spent so much of my life waiting for permission. And I think that when I was talking about looking back on old videos of myself as a little kid, I think I had to like try to get permission from my parents to do things or to feel things, to say things. Like it was like that controlled, like I didn't feel like I could do anything unless they said I could, or if they told me it was right. Like I was always looking for approval and permission. And I certainly have been doing that in my adulthood. And so on YouTube, it's incredibly vulnerable because when somebody says, the simplest things to you, I start to think, oh, I screwed up. I'm not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't even try. And in terms of the permission thing, I guess it's like, I think for my whole YouTube career, I've been looking for permission to be myself. And it's so tough. Like my whole life, I just want to be myself. I think each of us just wants to be ourselves. Like we just want to be authentically ourselves. But we live in this time where like shame and criticism and correction like rules us so much. It's so many of our lives are just based on doing it the right way, eating the right way, living the right way, looking the right way, acting the right way, saying the right things. And so on YouTube, it's like kind of odd that I'm so drawn to being on this platform because I never feel like I'm doing things right here. And I'm always trying to do it right. I'm always trying to change to do things right. I'm trying to think of but I don't think there is a right way. And it's, I'm always afraid that people are judging me. And yet I put out these vulnerable videos. So there's two sides of me, right? There's the strong side. There's the side that's going to do it anyways. I'm so fortunate to have that side of me. But I'm really pulled down by the other side of me that is terrified of being judged and super sensitive and just thinks that I'm always doing everything wrong. And it's intense. And if any of you can relate to that and you experience that too, as usual, I want you to know that you're not alone. And I think it's just an ongoing adjustment, an ongoing commitment to being present and persevering and saying like, I don't feel great about doing this, but something's telling me I should do this and I'm going to do it and push through those emotions and the second guessing. And I really want to make those changes in my life, my mental state, because it's held me back so much. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 10 years and I've never stopped feeling this way. And I don't know if I ever fully will, but I just often wonder what would my career have been like in these past 10 years if I hadn't let those emotions ruled me? And what would your life look like if you didn't let emotions rule you? And another example is I'm really fascinated by Ariana Grande. And yesterday I found out that her ex-boyfriend passed away. And I went online because I was just kind of curious how she was going to respond to it. And the first thing that came up was that Ariana Grande like put her Instagram on hold or like turned off comments because people were going on her Instagram and blaming her for her boyfriend's death. You don't need to know the details, but the short version of it, if you don't follow this at all, is that she started dating somebody else and is now engaged. And it was very shortly after she broke up with this ex-boyfriend. And so people thought maybe he had ended his life because he was so depressed about their breakup and all that. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe somebody would blame somebody else for something like that. And how insensitive, how one-sided. Like I could never imagine saying that. Especially as someone I don't even know. I don't know Ariana Grande. I know who the media presents her as, how she presents herself on social media. I don't know her. Who am I to say she's responsible for somebody's death? But that's so much in our culture. That's so ingrained. And you look on YouTube and the things people say in the comment section, the things people say anywhere online, it's just a lot of shame. And it makes me very uncomfortable, but I do all of this anyways. Because I guess I hope that I can be part of a change and I can set a better example and encourage people to not judge, all this judgment that we put out there to one another. I think maybe that's if you believe that everything has a reason, maybe the reason I grew up with a very critical mother was so that I could experience what that feels like and learn how to shift it and learn how to change that paradigm. When those people yelled at me in the parking lot the other day, I remember coming away from it and thinking, gosh, I just need to send those people love because they clearly have so much rage that it expressed itself over a really simple scenario. So if that's how angry they get over something very small, what do they do in the times where things are extremely stressful and big? There's so much rage in people and there's so much hurt. And when we put our hurt feelings onto others, it does nothing for us or the other person. It just injures it. It just makes it worse. So we have to take so much personal responsibility and really reflect on our reactions and our words and decide when it's appropriate to say something. And we also have to know that the way our words affect somebody else is out of our control. Sometimes we say something and it's interpreted in a very different way than we meant it. So that's why human dynamics are very complicated, and communication is just an ongoing thing that we need to work on in our lives. So I'm going to read the comments real quick and then get going. Francie, thank you for being here. Yeah, she said chronic childhood emotional abuse is made of shame. Yes. Sets a person up for being a victim of shaming and abuse in adulthood. And Francie also said that she finally realizes her mother has a personality disorder or mental illness, and it's not about her. Yeah, it's I think a lot of parents, sadly, a lot of them base their parenting in shame. It was so amazing to be with my friend this morning, who is a very conscious woman and very committed to being a mother. And her daughter is 5 years old and like figuring a lot of things out in life. And her daughter was like acting up a bit. And I don't think I've ever seen a mother respond to her child in the way that my friend did. It was so remarkable to see, because there was a moment where her child was like kind of like on the verge of throwing a temper tantrum. And she said to her mom, I'm so angry. I'm going to beat you up, or blah, 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 like one of those things that kids say. And my friend said, just like looked at her and took a deep breath and nodded and said, okay. And then she let her child, she just kind of sat there with the child for a moment. And then she goes, I'm not sure what you need right now. Do you need a hug? And the child took a moment and then nodded her head, and they hugged. And suddenly the child's entire energy changed. And suddenly she was more relaxed. She was less angry and frustrated. And like everything shifted. And it was one of the most beautiful things I'd witnessed, because I was raised by a mother who would have yelled at me. I mean, my mother and father's way of dealing with that, if that had been me, like I remember I was a kid, curse words, like my mom would probably have slapped me in the face if I had ever cursed at her. Right? If I ever, even as an adult, if I criticize my mother, if I yell at her, like that dynamic, my mom has basically set that if I go against her, I'm either going to be, she's going to basically do something to put me in my place. I was not physically abused as a kid, but many parents will spank, or, they'll do drastic things. And my point is that I was raised by parents who they thought the best way to parent was to always be the top dog, was to always be in control, was to never let your child feel like they were equal, was not to figure out why your kid was acting that way, but to punish them when they did something that they didn't like. So I was emotionally punished a lot. Even as an adult, my mother's behavior, she will either fire, if I ever say anything that hurts her, she fires back in a way that'll really hurt me. She knows where all my buttons are, and she will say whatever it takes to hurt me. That's how my mom deals with me now. And or if she doesn't want to be in a conversation, she'll literally just walk away. Or she'll raise her voice to a point where she knows I will not engage with her any further. And my sister's like that now. And my dad is a bit like that. My dad is a little bit of a different way. My dad can be very condescending at times. I don't think he means to be, but he can be. And so that's the environment I grew up in. I grew up feeling like I couldn't express my feelings. Even as an adult, my family is not okay if I tell them that they've hurt me. Oh, this is the worst. My experience is that if I say this hurt my feelings, or this is why I want, if I basically try to explain what I'm feeling, what's very common is my family will manipulate me. It seems like I'm very biased, right? But what it feels like to me is that they ba- basically will accuse me of being selfish, or they'll accuse me of being overly sensitive, or they'll accuse me of hurting them. And this must have been going on my entire life. I'm just very conscious of it now. So basically, when that happens over and over again, when you say, hey, what you're doing is really hurting my feelings, and somebody won't acknowledge that, they don't apologize, or they twist the story around, or they walk away, like on and on, all these different behaviors I witnessed, you start to feel like maybe my feelings aren't valid. Maybe it's not okay to be hurt. Maybe I have to protect myself so I don't get hurt. And that way, if I don't get hurt, I don't have to express that I'm hurt. And what happens for me is I also want to walk away too. I mean, I was set up with this pattern of witnessing my mother, especially, and my sister. She's a lot like this too, sadly, is that when something's really hard, they walk away. They end the conversation. And so I find myself doing that sometimes too, and it's not good. And I have to catch myself and be like, "Oh, I'm mirroring my family." It's tough. It's tough to reflect on the things that you experience as a kid, and it's tough to see your parents as flawed human beings, and it's tough to know that some of the people that you love the most are going to show up in life in a way that you can't control. You can't change. My family has to make the decision if they want to change. And I think that because of that behavior, I grew up really second guessing myself. Like when I talked about the permission thing, is that I felt like I had to have permission for my feelings or validation. And I find myself a lot of the time like having a feeling, expressing a thought, and being really nervous about how it's going to be received. I just made a video the other day on my What a Vegan Eats channel, and I was like really expressing myself. And as soon as I finished it, I'm like, maybe I should unpublish that video. And I'm afraid to read people's comments because I'm afraid they're going to reject me and they're going to tell me my feelings and thoughts are wrong. So I basically grew up walking in eggshells, second guessing, looking for permission, wanting validation, not feeling good enough, all of those things. And I think a lot of people have those, or some of them, or some version of that, or something similar to it. And it's like, it makes me sad because I know how much it affects me and I don't want anybody to hurt that way. I know Francie, who's talked a lot about it, how does feel like emotional abuse, Just reading some of the comments now. What Jen did said, nothing worse than someone walking away from a conversation. I know. That's the thing. It's like, as you get older and you see your parents getting older, it's such a like fascinating stage of life. And I sometimes wonder like what would happen if my mother suddenly passed away? Because I think like I've spent so much of my life just thinking I have more time. But there's going to be a time where the clock runs out for my parents or me. Who knows? Like any of us can pass away at any time from any reason. And I also, like today, I think I was thinking, I'm good trying not to get too emotional about this, but like, I feel like my mom has a lot of guilt for our relationship. And I know my mom loves me, like I said, and I know that I don't think my mom knows how to fix our relationship. And I think that she just has so much inner pain and conflict that she doesn't express. My mom doesn't really express any of that. She runs away from it. And sometimes I'm like, wow, what's going to happen when she's on her deathbed? If I'm fortunate to be there during the little final phase of my mom's life, like, I think that my mom would probably want to apologize. So it's like I proactively have to forgive her because I would rather forgive her now than forgive her later in life in the final stages, And that's like one of the biggest things that we can do in life is like to really become conscious of the way other people treat us and react to us and forgive them for being humans and forgive ourselves too. I do forgive my mom. It hurts, but she's a human and she makes mistakes and I love her no matter what. So it would be nice if I could have healing with my mother. I just don't expect it. Like basically, I think we just have to heal on our own and forgive other people. And if we're lucky, we might be able to have a healing conversation with them. But we're not always going to get that opportunity. I don't know if I'll ever be able to have the type of conversation I yearn for with my mom. Because I don't know if she's ever going to think the way that I do. Or have the realizations that I've had. Or if she's ever going to take responsibility. It might be too much for her. Sometimes I think most people, they know when they're hurting somebody else. And sometimes it's so much pain. Like it builds up this pain of, oh my gosh, I've hurt someone. And it's like terrifying to admit it. They know on some level that they've done harm. But it's really hard for us to admit when we've hurt somebody else. And a lot of people, it's even harder to ask for forgiveness. So, one of my big missions is to forgive my mom as much as I possibly can and love her no matter what. And just continue to work on my own healing. And I hope that it inspires you to do the same, whether it's a parent or a friend or a loved one, whoever it is in your life that you felt hurt by. I hope you can find a way to forgive them and heal yourself from it and put more love out there. And Jen said, twisting the story around, making you feel like you have to second guess what you feel. Yeah, I mean, again, it's so tough when you're the one experiencing it. Like I'm so biased. I think the word abuse is a really tough, is a very like intense word. And I'm very conscious about the words that I use. So I don't feel comfortable using that word. But perhaps what I've experienced has been a form of abuse. It's just that it doesn't serve me to label it that way. Just based on everything I just said. Like, what am I going to do? Point a finger at my mom and say you emotionally abused me? For what purpose? What does that do? To me, that just adds a further divide. I think what I can do is say, this is how I felt by my mother's actions. And like I said, forgive her and send her more love and work on my healing. That to me feels the most proactive way of dealing with this. And yeah, it doesn't need to be labeled, in my opinion. Thank you, Francie. Ted said, my sister waited too long to work out issues with our mom long before reaching her deathbed. My mom left the critical mental facility to talk about it. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you never know. Our parents, you know, what's really interesting is a lot of these things can result in health conditions. And so I think on that note, one of the big reasons that I would like to really work on forgiveness towards my mom and saying her more love is in hopes that that would help heal her, like relieve her heart. I know I'm not responsible for that, but just to be selfless about it. Because I wouldn't be surprised if my mother had some sort of health condition related to the amount of shame that she gives out. And I'm sure she feels massive shame towards herself. I think when somebody says or does something towards us, it's just a reflection of how they feel about themselves. So, and I think it's even bigger inside. So if somebody criticizes you, that probably means that they're constantly criticizing themselves. So if it hurts you, imagine how much it's hurting them. And I think that can be literally cancerous. My mom is incredibly healthy. I'm very fortunate that all three of my immediate family members are incredibly healthy. They work out and they eat fairly well and they're in nature and like they do so much. So I really hope that all my family members live long lives. But the one thing that can't be discounted is the psychological side of things. And I think my mom's in a lot of deep pain and has been for a good part of her life. And that's probably going to affect her in one way or another. So that's another reason I'd love to just forgive her and send her lots of love and healing energy, because I wouldn't want her to, like, let's say, have a heart attack or a stroke or, what's it called when you lose your memory? I forget, but I want my mother to live as long of a life as she deserves and be healthy and have a good mentality so that we do have a better chance of working things out together. But again, I have to be unattached. Like, I can't control any of that. I can just hope for it, ask for it, do my part in it. The rest is up to her. Okay, well, thank you for all the wonderful comments. I appreciate it. I never know where these videos are going to go, and sometimes they're just an outpouring of emotions. So thank you for holding space for me, listening, having conversations. And for those of you who experience similar things with anyone in your life, I feel for you and I'm here for you. That's one of the reasons that I built the Eco Vegan Pal platform, is to create a safe space. So I want to put a lot more work into Eco Vegan Pal to develop that. And if any of you have been thinking about it, you can join at any time. You can do it a month-to-month basis. You can join annually to save money, or you can sign up for things like the Eco Vegan Pal care packages and get a 3-month membership from it. So it's really, I want to find as many ways to support you and hold space for you and help you meet each other and like just feel as supported as you deserve to feel, and know that you're just not alone in any of this. And not just from me, but there's so many people that experience the same things as you and have advice, and the community is super important. So know that Eco Vegan Pal is there for you. If you go to ecoveganpal.com, you can learn more about it. Go check out the care packages while they're up. I'll probably be doing care packages for a while. It's just I never know exactly what I'm going to have or when I'm going to have them, when they can ship out. So get them while they're available, or just wait until the next batch comes up, whenever that happens to be. Thanks a lot. Again, I'm sending you lots of love and healing energy, and I'll see you very soon. I don't know exactly when it will be, given that I'm going to be traveling, but I imagine I will want to make some videos while I'm on the East Coast because It can be challenging being out there with family, so wish me luck. It's always a great opportunity for me to practice. Life is just an ongoing practice. Okay, until next time, lots of love to you. Bye.